Good evening, hailing frequencies are open. Welcome back to the Last Excelsior, our Star Trek Adventures game here with the StreamPunks. It's good to be back. As you all know, we've been off for about 2 weeks. Noir, thank you for jumping in and filling in the GM's chair while we were gone. I was bored and tripped over a pile of COVID and was like, oh yeah, everyone else is doing it. Why shouldn't I should do it, right? And so I jumped on the bandwagon, checked it out. I don't know why you guys are so excited about it and why everyone's getting it. I didn't like it personally. So I don't recommend it. That's just me. That's a hot take. I know, but whatever. But doing a bit better today. So thank you all for your patience. We're jumping back in here after that 2-week hiatus, and we're going to do a quick round here of doing some announcements before we jump into the game tonight, as per usual. The only announcement that I have right off the bat is just that I have a comic book out. The day I tested positive for my first case of COVID was also the day my comic released. So that's funsies. Yes, The Rise of Hellfire, the origin story of one Eddie Munson from Stranger Things, is now in stores. Issue 1 is out. Grab the variant covers while you can. They're all freaking awesome. Our artist is amazing. All of our cover artists are amazing. Definitely check it out. Dark Horse Comics. Issue 2 will be out next month. I hope you guys enjoy it. I co-wrote that with one Jody Hauser, who is well known for being something of a comic book writer herself. So I can guarantee that at least half the book will be quality. Without any other announcements, does anybody else have anything that they would like to announce before we kick off the game tonight?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
This Wednesday over on Darrington Press, we will be doing the Charity Heart game. It's going to be me, Iffy, Noadaway, Danny, Carr. Oh my God, I forgot one other person. My brain is made out of soup. But come check it out. Find out who our mystery person is that I can't remember. Also, donations. We'll have some pretty cool rewards. I can't say too much, but if you are a Critical Role fan, I would highly check it out. You might just see some familiar faces or two, but that is me.
Thank you, Noir. Yes, Caitlin.
I announced it a little bit last week. I'm going to promote it again. Since Twitch is limiting how many videos we can keep on Twitch, I'm moving all of my GeoGuessr streams over to YouTube. And I'm making a bunch of extremely fun and silly thumbnails. So you should go look at those and like all the videos because there's like a half a dozen of them. And I have been having fun moving them over. And so all of my GeoGuessr streams will be going there from here on out. People have been very kind about it thus far. I appreciate all of you, and I appreciate everybody who's checked it out, like, subscribed, and stuff like that. I will be over there now all the time.
Very good. Anybody else have any other announcements they'd like to kick off before we jump into the story tonight?
Yeah. It's like an announcement of an announcement, but it's more of an announcement than the other announcement of an announcement I did last time. But I can actually say the name of it now. I'm producing a natural play podcast called Sacred Machinations, which is a mecha actual play using a system I'm currently and have been writing for the past couple of months. So if you want to check that out, just keep an eye out. We're going to be announcing the premiere date soon. But follow me on socials. I've already tweeted out the logo. We're going to be getting some character art posted over the next couple of weeks as well. So check that out. Follow me on social to find out when that officially premieres. Sweet. All right. Anything else? Anything else? Anything at all? Anything that anybody wants to? Sam is the only one that hasn't spoken, so I'm just totally just spotlighting Sam right now. Sam, you've got absolutely nothing. Literally nothing. Not a single thing of science that you're excited about. Not a single nothing. Literally nothing.
I would never.
While you're looking at my YouTube, you should also go over on Sam's YouTube and comment on all of their videos. I love science. That's a call to action.
Thank you. Thank you, Caitlin. Excellent. You can see now why they played antagonistic siblings in this game. All right. With that, let's go ahead and jump into tonight's episode of The Last Excelsior.
Mind your dang business, Caitlin.
but
it's chaos tonight. We haven't gotten
What?
tonight. Welcome back, everyone. We're gonna go ahead and jump in. I'm gonna pick us up without doing a big recap because we've had 2 weeks. I'm just gonna pick us up right where we left off, which was a shuttlecraft departing Starbase 16. As you guys were heading just outside the boundaries of short-range sensors, so a good distance away from Starbase 16, specifically to see if you might be able to flag down a certain Klingon captain. The theory is that the IKS Drovna might be stalking the USS Pride. Perhaps has been following around the USS Pride in hopes of being able to recontact or connect with the USS Pride. It's something that the captain had the colonel rather, had already hinted at when she captured your CAG and described an instance of where she had been trying, that her and her crew had been trying to reassert themselves and had been forgotten. But that somehow the USS Pride and her crew were different, hinting that it somehow coincided with whatever is happening to the Pride and these anti-chronoton variant particles that the Pride has been saturated with. Now, right now, as a quick reminder, just in the background of all of this that is happening, the captain has ordered that your chief science officer put all of their resources into research and uncovering as much as they can as to the nature of these anti-chronoton particles, because you've already gotten a fair sense of that they are variations, that they are saturated in the metals of these this hull plating that you have resting inside the USS Pride. You know that it is a anti-chronoton, that it reacts by way of charging through what you believe is sort of an outdated version of plasma conduit charge that theoretically could be why they were on the other planet and so on. That's happening in the background. So you have, amidst all of this, Lieutenant Avrali is currently researching that. Everybody else at the station right now is completely oblivious to the sojourn that you have all decided to take out here in the shuttlecraft, which was just intended as sort of an experiment. You guys have been flying at low impulse. The two of you. You guys have been flying at low impulse just outside the short-range sensor screen of Starbase 16. Of course, there's still a lot of activity in the system. So your sensors are constantly catching ships warping in and out of the system, docking and departing from Starbase 16. The USS Pride, you got a good look at her when you all headed out of the Starbase. She is in the midst of repair right now. As a quick heads up, too, of what's happening in the background, Lieutenant Commander Pavin is currently heading the repair crews right now. And thanks to some really innovative techniques of linking up the AI and Peaches and a few of the other worker bee drones, it's theoretically going to speed up repair work to find the imperfections in the hull plating damaged by that rogue black hole that you all encountered. It's been a very quiet 30 minutes as you have all flown out of Starbase 16. No questions were asked because, if I remember correctly, you guys successfully managed to just log a flight plan and kind of slip away. So nobody asked any questions.
Shuttle.
It is worth noting that it was not a shuttle from Starbase 16. It was from the USS Pride, which gave you guys a lot of latitude. You got a lot more pull to fly a shuttle out of the starship. Even if there were no scheduled flights for the day, no one's going to stop the CAG and be like, "Whoa, wait a minute." So you're able to do this without question. Pavin, your chief of the deck, nobody stopped you guys. 30 minutes out now. And you see the great big black gorgeous curtain of space in front of you. The night sky as it always eternally is, and the splash of colors from distant nebula and stars. It is quiet out here. It's currently not really that active on your sensors, aside from the traffic you see coming and going out of the starbase. And the two of you are sitting quietly, side by side in the shuttlecraft.
Antagonistic Klingon lady, are you out there? I have your knife.
Don't suppose there's a door to knock on.
Eric, can I jury rig together a neutron emission? I remember when I was on the bridge of that ship, that was the thing that they received while I was there, like someone was coming. It's a type of emission I know they're sensitive to, that they're looking for. A knock-knock, if you will.
Like a neutrino burst, basically, is what you're trying to create. Some kind of like flare.
Like
Wave of
Morse
flare.
code, a neutrino Morse code.
Yeah.
Was it a neutrino or a neutron?
Neutrons, or whatever you said.
Okay. A little neutron, a little neutrino.
No. 1 second here, as I am. Yeah, it was neutron. That's correct. So it was a neutron radiation surge, essentially, is what they were looking for. So, could you recreate neutron radiation?
I mean, just hear me out. We modulate the deflector array.
Oops. 1 second. I don't see why not. You'd have to science that a little bit.
I did. You modulate the deflector array.
Could we engineering it, maybe?
Yeah, I think engineering it is totally acceptable.
Okay.
1 second. Let me just. I'm going to cross-reference this so I can check myself here. Neutrons are electronically hardened particles composed of 2 quarks. Yeah, I know this because of the properties. 1915 neutron microscope on board. Yes. Okay. Neutrons could be full of energy. Starships can emit. Starships can emit. Yes. Okay. So what I would say is, the naturally occurring neutron radiation that is emitted as a property of warp cores, it would be easy enough to essentially cause yours to, I would say equivalent of like raising the contrast on a photograph, to kind of cause to make it more visible, not necessarily to cause a burst of neutron radiation, but although if you roll an engineering check, you probably could. I might rule that if you're willing to spend the reserve power out of the shuttlecraft, you could absolutely cause a neutron radiation burst out of the warp core in the shuttlecraft. Which would be
in contrast to?
What's that?
Burst in contrast to.
So burst in contrast would basically be like wearing a glow-in-the-dark t-shirt into a room. Whereas if you do a neutron radiation burst, that's like walking into a room and popping a road flare.
Okay.
And that's how I would illustrate those as different.
Very evocative, both of those.
I mean, I'd love to roll to never do either of those. Those sound incredibly unsafe.
Yes, I would do.
In a fire zone.
And just as a quick aside, if you are a wheeler, it is always recommended that you wheel into a room wearing a glow in the dark shirt. As a course correction to what I had suggested, but yes. But yeah,
So
that would be the
moving our
difference.
Reserve power is
Yeah, so if you wanted to, and that's just a simple matter of just saying we're going to use the reserved power and then make an engineering check.
Well, in that case,
the difficulty will be
reserve power and then make it.
Yeah. So if you're going to go ahead and use reserve power, I'm going to say the engineering check will be set to 0, since you are spending your reserve power to do this, and the number of successes you get will basically dictate the magnitude of that burst.
Because it's the 2 of us and it's the start of a game, we do start with 1.
Correct.
And you do get an assist.
You can use on this roll.
You also get an assist from the shuttlecraft on this too.
If we thought my paragriffins were disappointing.
Does close-knit crew come into play at all?
That's why we have the one. Yes.
The one.
Ah, okay.
Mhm.
Yep. Thank you.
I can roll
Um,
for the shuttle.
And I'll take the control engineering with small craft system engineering, shall we say?
Okay.
That feels like
5.
an authentic focus.
So for the shuttlecraft, it's 6 engines and engineering, total of 6.
Ha! Okay.
All right.
What am I trying to hit for the shuttlecraft? Do we know
It's
the number?
6
It
or
is 6.
less. Yeah.
No, it's 13.
13. Okay, cool. How many successes did you rack up?
So that focus was useless when you roll a natural one. But that plus the 10 gives us 3 successes from Cadence.
Okay. You reroute power through the nacelles and channel some of the neutron radiation that's already kind of like an exhaust of the warp core itself, basically causing it to spike, you igniting it a little bit, causing a reaction in the nacelles. Basically, the shuttlecraft ignites neutron radiation behind it and causes this brilliant starburst of energy that flares up briefly. That's going to show up on everyone's sensors in the entire system. Everyone's going to detect a small neutron radiation burst of low levels, probably completely harmless. Usually in the academy, sometimes it is used as a during air shows, so to speak. And in this case, you channel a lot of the engineering proficiency of the shuttle into this event so that the flash that occurs behind the shuttlecraft actually lights up the interior of the shuttlecraft for a brief moment. Sensors immediately picking up high levels of neutron radiation outside the shuttle, but they're not within dangerous parameters. And the warp core, you see reserve power, it goes offline.
All right. Well, hopefully that gets their attention if they're out there. You're
Do me
scrunching.
The Vulcan scrunch.
the well-known Vulcan scrunch.
Mm-hmm.
Just thinking. It's, more
Unfamiliar.
wondering. Yes. Oh, yes. Unfamiliar territory. Just wondering.
Wondering what?
About her and what her whole thing will end up being. Nothing productive coming from this wondering, unfortunately.
Heaven forfend one's thoughts should be unproductive.
Mm.
Father would be so disappointed.
When isn't he?
Surely there were magnitudes. Otherwise, what was all that work for? Why did I even have an adolescence?
Mm. Maybe there were a few times he was appeased.
Yeah. I like those less.
It was more fun to ruffle his feathers a little.
I hope he's having a bad day. I hope it's mildly inconvenient.
My mantra most mornings, yes.
Doing a rules check on something real quick.
Great.
We'll wish more ill onto our father.
Indeed.
I'm sure they
Not-
do.
Not
like
grand inconveniences,
No,
just
no.
like, I hope the replicator's on the fritz again.
I hope he can't find the one pad that doesn't annoy him.
I hope his appointment is on the wrong side of the Bay Bridge.
I hope the first lift closest to his office is offline for most of the day.
I hope his hot beverages materialize lukewarm.
He would hate that. Not that he'd admit it, but he would.
No, imagine a Vulcan admitting to an emotion or sentiment.
No, of course not. Much less him.
I kick the side of your chair.
I kick yours back.
I kick yours again.
I spin your chair with my foot.
With that Vulcan strength, you get a good spin on that chair.
How could you? I'm the pilot.
I believe this is not the dedicated vessel for either of us. I believe simultaneously both of us are and are not in charge here.
Well, yeah, why would either of us fly a trash can?
Exactly.
Devine, make me an insight security check.
Okay. I was about to ask if
Wow.
the ability that was not from this character came into play. That's a different game. Okay. How about my kinetic sense? Does that exist here? No. Okay.
Kinetic sense? That's your ability to like touch. Is that right?
No, this is in the Noirville game.
Oh, I see.
My speedster can sense movement. Okay. Let's see. Insight security. Well,
Insight security check. The difficulty of this is going to be 2.
ooh.
Ooh.
Standard difficulty.
Did we get
we have
one,
4.
we have 4. Okay. I would
Yeah,
like
because
to
there's a
grab
difficulty 0. I got 3 successes.
Got it. Okay. I'm gonna spend one just because.
Right.
Just because.
4 down to 3.
Is not a check
inside
that I'm.
security difficulty 2. I hear you.
Did you give
How
me
many complications?
Did you give me a complication one?
No, I didn't, but that's probably the funniest thing I could have rolled. 18, 18, 1. So I beat it with one of the dice. I saw the 2 18s first and I was like, oh God. And then I saw the 1. I was like, well, I guess.
Rolling double 18s, very, very low probability of that. Well done.
Oh my God.
You hear in between sentences, Cadence does not catch it. You hear movement in the back of the shuttle.
I stop your chair spinning.
It sounds like something bumping up against one of the panels in the back of the shuttle.
Yeah, I think I in the middle of I'm about to try to spin your chair again. She just stops the movement.
What?
Is there cargo aboard already? When we requisition them?
No, no one uses these shuttles for almost anything. We have the Griffins.
It would be empty entirely?
I wasn't the last one to inventory, but what would you put in there? Why? Did you need snacks? We have a replicate.
No, I think we may have. Well, I don't want to speak too soon, and she's going to get up and go, look.
Okay, you move towards the back of the shuttle bay. Or not shuttle bay, but the back of the shuttlecraft. When you get to the back portion, of course, you see the transporter pad and the area where there's an alcove that can fold out for sleep if one needs to. You see a bunch of the standard issue things. A lot of the panels look like they're all in the right place. Nothing looks like it's been disturbed back here.
Do I have any sense of where it came from? Was it nearby the front? Did I think it was the back? Or I just heard a sound?
You just heard a sound back here, like something was moving.
Moving actively. Okay.
Like something was moving around back here. You undoubtedly heard like a bumping sound.
Is someone else aboard this vessel? Would appreciate it if you would show yourself. You are unauthorized on this craft.
I'll do an internal sensor sweep. Just to have, empirical proof that my sister's being wacky.
Okay, you turn to the computer. A couple of quick commands on the internal sensors. It reveals that there is a Tellarite wedged inside of what looks like engineering panel 3, just big enough for his size. currently balled up with his knees tucked up to his chest. He's in relatively good health, according to internal sensors.
Tavine, the snacks are behind panel 3.
I will open panel 3.
You get a new car! No.
Then there's a hissing sound as it depressures, and you pull the paneling off, and you find yourself looking into the face of a very not ashamed Bragg Pav Bend, the Tellarite reporter from the USS Pride. Just kind of looks over at you, pulls his beard out of the way a little bit so he can get a better look at you as it's all kind of fluffed up over his shoulder, and he just kind of pulls it down and he goes, I'm pretty sure you don't have authorization to be in the shuttlecraft either.
2 senior officers of a ship.
2 senior officers not following protocol of your ship. Not a single flight plan was logged. Not a single thing was cleared with the commanding officer. It's not a ship for you to take around like it's your joyride, is it, Lieutenant?
We are both commanding officers, and a flight plan was logged.
Oh,
what
no,
reason do you have on this ship?
No, it wasn't Vulcan, who's lying to me right now. Vulcans aren't supposed to lie.
Vulcans do not lie. I watched the lieutenant requisition the ship officially before we walked on.
Really? Because that's odd. He pulls up this data pad. He struggles to get it out from underneath his arm as you see him finally pull it free and just, can I get out? This is very difficult to argue with you when I'm in a ball.
I don't know if I'd like to give you the upper hand, but I do find it would be rude to leave you stuck inside, so she'll move to the side.
One large booted foot, the second, and then he pulls himself out. As he pulls himself out, he's got his bag with him, so you see it spill contents out onto the floor of a couple of data pads. He immediately starts picking it up, and he goes, I have right here, see, right here, pulls up a data pad and says, all of the flight plans that were being logged today, neither one of you are on them. It does say that you checked out a shuttlecraft like it was some kind of book, but none of that was authorized.
You said it needed to be authorized by a senior officer. Both of us are senior officers.
Why are you engaging, Tavine?
Because I find this strange, and I do not understand the purpose of it.
Because I have every bit as much of a right to not be here as you do.
That is nonsensical, and she's going to turn around and go back to the front of the ship.
Yeah.
By the way, so why are you both out here anyway? What caused 2 senior officers who apparently answer to no other senior officers to take a shuttlecraft without authorization outside of the hull, the USS Pride, during repairs?
Not seeing anything on sensors, Tavine.
How much time do we want to give it before we head back and return our stowaway?
No comment. Well, I'm sure the Federation News Service will find that interesting.
I'd like it to be enough of an opportunity that maybe if they were outside the area, I estimate that neutron radiation emission should have been visible for a fair range, especially based on how sensitive
we're looking for it, you said.
Renegade Starfleet officers saturating system with neutron radiation. Possibly part of some covert operation. What are they covering up? As he begins to type all this in. What is the real mission of the USS Pride? Why was it really pulled out of mothballs? What are you both hiding?
We could comms Lieutenant of Raleigh. Maybe see if any movement happened post.
Officers dodged questions, once again alluding to the possibility that I am on the correct course.
That would be... Well, we can take a quick scan for the anti-chronotons at minimum. Would you like to take a point in that? I mean,
he sets up the data
your
pad in the back.
sensor skills are so...
This is Bragg Pav Bend. I'm currently broadcasting right now from the back of a shuttlecraft that had been stolen by 2 Starfleet officers from the USS Pride. The
we could get a sight to sight.
What do you think?
I bet I could talk. I was like, I could calm Zoe and perhaps get a sight to sight.
He continues on doing what would seem to be some kind of like remote news report into this small data pad.
Yeah.
Okay.
He gets about a sentence in before all 3 of you are suddenly blanketed in a red curtain of energy and are beamed off the shuttlecraft.
Awesome.
What? I knew it! I knew it! Were the last words that he says in the shuttlecraft before he is also vanished with the rest of you. Meanwhile, back on Starbase 16, you have no one but Noir to blame for this NPC.
I know.
You have
I
no
love this NPC so
Look,
much.
I don't know what you
already.
guys talk about. Who would make a Alex Jones type character in Star Trek?
Oh,
Yeah.
oh no.
Nothing but bad
Oh.
things can happen to him now. I got you, Chet.
It is perhaps perfect then that I enacted this NPC as a result of a complication and
It was a complication.
threat. Yes,
Yeah.
it was a complication.
It's so funny.
Back on Starbase 16, I'm curious what you are up to right now to Taeon. Taeon, are you've been trying to understand the nature of the vision that you had.
Yeah.
And you're still trying to ascertain what the connection is with that, with the image that you saw of a Jim Hadar speaking to you before that vision ended. You've received some hint that it may be a red herring, but it's not convincing enough. There's still a lot of questions.
Yeah. It felt, even if it is a red herring, it feels, I've never come across a Jem'Hadar. I have no experience with the Jem'Hadar.
Right.
So it being a subconscious thing on my end doesn't make too much sense. So it does still feel like there's something going on, even if it's not directly connected to the Jem'Hadar. But I was advised to maybe go to the holodeck and see if I can have I guess as close to a conversation as you can have with a simulation of a Jem'Hadar, see if I learn anything from that. So I think that's what I'm currently on the way to do.
Okay. Heading to the Starbase 16 has plenty of holodecks to spare. Heading to holodeck 8, which is one of the smaller, basically a holo suite. Entering your command authorization codes as a senior officer of the USS Pride, you gain access. You step inside and find yourself inside of a smaller, more oddly shaped, not necessarily a fully rounded shaped holodeck. It's more akin to Voyager's holodeck, so it's much smaller, and it isn't necessarily as expansive, but just as advanced. When you step inside, it's easy enough if you would like to load a program of a Jem'Hadar.
Yeah, I think I'd like to do that.
Okay. So a few moments later, giving the specifications of known Jem'Hadar, you ask the holodeck to load the program. I'm guessing you're specifying this is an educational program and not a combat simulation. Is that right?
Yeah. At least for right now, purely educational.
This in all the years I've run Star Trek Adventures, there's only been one incident where somebody fought a Jem'Hadar, and it was not even a real Jem'Hadar. It was a holodeck Jem'Hadar.
Hey, those are Jem'Hadar stats. That's what matters. That was a Jem'Hadar defeat. That's what matters.
Sam's like, don't you dare belittle what Rue pulled off in that holodeck that day.
Hey, I won't belittle the Jem'Hadar either. The one who damaged them.
Yeah, it's true. Literally the only NPC that got a lick in on Rue in hand-to-hand combat.
Would have done it twice. Let's go.
So you see, after asking the computer to load up the program, you see a Jem'Hadar soldier appear in front of you, wearing the full standard outfit armor of the Dominion. The Jem'Hadar stands about 6'5" and is built athletically, has rows of teeth lining its head up into its cranial plate, a long, thick black ponytail that cuts off abruptly, sticks out a bit. You can also see the very visible tube of Ketracel white that is attached to its neck and leading into the back of its jaw, the base of the skull, and it stands there staring at you. Curiously enough, without any instructions or personality matrix currently loaded in for the engagement of this, because the program is hasn't begun yet, even in this state where it just stares at you as a program, it somehow still seems accurate to what you've seen or know of the Jem'Hadar. It's not accurate to call them soulless, but the intensity of their stare and their focus, even seeing one in this neutral state to Aeon, feels screen accurate.
Is that moment where their thoughts kind of flick over to Cadence just for a second before refocusing on this gem Hadar. And they will straighten up, look the gem Hadar directly in the eye, even if it is just a imitation of one. What do you know of any sort of operation or squad or team known as Echo?
The Jem'Hadar, the program starts up. The Jem'Hadar looks at you and says, I am not familiar with any squad, team, or operation known as Echo.
Have any of your kind been able to interfere with a Vulcan mind meld?
Yes. The Jem'Hadar pivots. A strike to the base of the skull will sever the brainstem from a Vulcan instantaneously with enough pressure. It will effectively render a Vulcan mind meld impossible. As he takes a slow step around you and looks you up and down.
I don't turn to like keep their gaze. I allow them to circle around me.
Vulcan strength is impressive. It's not quite like Klingons, is it? Klingons are known for being durable, but Vulcans are known for being powerful. But a shame that you were all forsworn from violence.
Other than physically interfering, has there been any other way the Jem'Hadar are aware of interfering with a Vulcan mind meld?
Vulcan mysticism is of no concern to the Jem'Hadar. Unless it can serve the founders.
Have you heard of anti-chronoton particles?
Yes. Chronoton particles, by their nature, are the only particles currently aware that can travel backwards through the flow of time. Anti-chronoton particles are constantly used to manipulate that flow through time. We have experimented with weaponry, such as chronoton torpedoes, in order to affect shields. But it was found to be ineffectual in cost. Federation, Romulan, Klingons. Your technology is somewhat lacking. There was no need to advance our torpedo technology any further.
So it sounds like you have use of chronoton particles, but not anti-chronoton, correct?
The Dominion is not privy to using anti-chronoton technology as a weapon.
Taeon has their arms crossed, thinking now what else they can ask this Jem'Hadar. This is above table because I'm terrible and don't have notes. What is the name of the Klingon commander that we're currently looking for?
Vakras.
Vakras, okay.
V''Kras, Vakras.
Have you had any interactions with a Klingon colonel named Vakras?
The Jem'Hadar looks at you and says, I'm not familiar with this name.
Any other questions to ask? Yeah, I think that's all I have for right now. That is all.
The Jem'Hadar stares at you passively until you tell the program to end.
End simulation.
It vanishes right in front of you. It didn't look quite like the one you saw in your dream. Jem'Hadar have very subtle variations.
Could I try describing the one I saw in my dream and see if they have any simulations of one that matches or looks similar to that?
You can certainly try, yes.
I'll try doing that.
All right. So in which case, I'm going to have you make an insight security check.
Let me do that. Insight
And
security.
I'm going to have this as sort of a scaling success rate. So I'm going to start the base difficulty at 2. And the more successes you can get, the more detailed your description to the computer will be.
Okay.
So go ahead and make that roll. And you're not going to get any assists on this, unfortunately, because it's just literally pulling from your own memory.
Last time the computer got to help.
Yeah, this time it's literally pulling from a dream. Okay. So the whereas like the same reasons that I would argue that it's not necessarily the same as pulling from a memory. Trying to remember a dream you had that that's pulling from subconscious practically of something that's kind of faded from the surface level of your mind. However, I might be willing to forego that and allow a computer assist if you were to perhaps indulge in any kind of Vulcan meditation or anything that would bring that to the surface of your mind. Vulcans are renowned for being able to focus and center themselves and bring things forward.
I'll do that. I think as I try to recall off the top of my head, I find I'm struggling not being able to get a solid image, especially since this whole time I've been just kind of focused on the fact it's a Jem'Hadar rather than this specific Jem'Hadar.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I'm kind of switching courses to be a bit more specific about it, I think I sit. Actually, I would like to ask Caitlin this real quick. Have I witnessed Taveen meditate? Do you think?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Definitely. Okay. I think I mimic Taveen's meditation practice. I kind of sit on the ground, legs crossed, and just go.
I mean, you're on the holodeck. You can literally recreate. In fact, I would give you an assist from the computer to meditate if you were to recreate a Vulcan meditation chamber.
Oh yeah, I'll do that. Yeah.
Taveen doesn't use that, so if you want to,
Well, that's true. Okay. I feel like I think just because of who Talon is as a person, how they grew up, they weren't taught all of the traditionally Vulcan traditions. So I'm gonna say I don't think they asked the holodeck to recreate a meditation chamber. I think they recreate I think they recreate Tuveen's quarters back on USS Costa Vega. And kind of sit in the spots that Tuveen had sat in the last time they saw them meditating there, and will mimic and go through that process. So,
all right, some familiar ground. That's true. It occurs to me now as the suggestion comes up that Aeon would probably feel a little uncomfortable meditating inside the cave of somebody who was practicing the way of the Vulcan Kolinar or some such. In this case, though, you find some familiar territory with candles and some incense. Sitting down on the meditation pillow. I'm going to have you roll for this. I'm going to have you roll command and insight.
Okay.
With a difficulty of 0. And I'm going to let I'm going to roll for this because I have the starbase stats here in front of me. So, 1 second. Okay. Number of dice in the pool. Okay, cool. What did you get?
Okay, so good news, I rolled a 1. Bad news, I also rolled a 20.
Oh. Hey, just so you know, there are other numbers on the dice. Like,
I don't think so. It looks like all of these are 1s and 20s to me. I don't know what you're talking about.
This two-sided coin that I have?
The good news is you get a success from the starbase. So you get 2 successes total, and I'm absolutely going to burn this complication. So you find yourself slipping into a state of meditation. For you, it's a little of a different path from meditation to Aeon. You've learned a different way of doing this. It's much more akin to Buddhism on Earth, of calming your mind by accepting the state of being that you are in And instead of repressing, suppressing, or the Vulcan tendency of being able to successfully essentially shutter away emotions and sort of box them away, you do quite the opposite. You allow them, but you don't judge them. You let them have their say, but they don't get to stick around and they don't get to boss you. You basically experience them. You make them okay without judgment. And as you start to sink into that, it's a meditation practice that works well for humans. For Vulcans, however, the psychology is different. The way your brain works is a little different. It is not in any way hyperbole to say that Vulcans experience emotions on a magnitude greater than humans do. And this has always been the great challenge, the hard road that you have taken, rejecting the teachings of Sarek. So as you begin this meditation process and start to breathe in and out, you begin to formulate this Jem'Hadar's face in your mind. And you begin to see the face begin to form slowly. You begin to remember what it felt like to be on the bridge, to feel the heat from the fire of the consoles that were burning, and the sudden surprise you experienced when the Jem'Hadar grabbed you and turned around and looked you in the eyes and said, "Echo." And you feel yourself sinking suddenly. That horrifying feeling when you might be close to blacking out and the world feels like it's coming up on you, when what's really happening is you might be falling. You begin to experience that anxiety-inducing sensation. Your eyes instinctively snap open, feeling like you're about to pitch forward, like you're losing your balance on the meditation pillow. But what's actually happening is you're being thrown to the ground and you're sliding through the dirt. As you're in the dirt and looking up, I'm going to burn that complication. You find yourself inside this cave, and there are Federation officers around you that are lying in terrible states of battle. Looks like a couple of corpses from combat, and a couple of Jem'Hadar are also laying nearby. You are laying on the ground, and your body does not look or feel like it's your own. And yet the wound on your body from whatever is happening feels quite real. Please gain 4 points of stress. As the front part of your uniform looks like it has been torn, and there is a blackened mark on your chest. If you didn't know any better, you would think that you just inhabited the body of someone who's been hit directly to the chest with a polaron blast from one of the Jem'Hadar's rifles. Everything around you looks foggy, hazy, like you're looking through windows that have been smudged with oil. So you're not quite seeing things in perfect clarity. But what does come through is the clarity of that Jem'Hadar. And he's talking to someone. As you're glancing up from the ground, there is a figure much smaller than he, probably stands to about his shoulders. And judging from the build and the voice, might be femme. You're not sure. Difficult to say. But these robes that they're wearing vaguely resemble Vulcan robes. Or something familiar. Something like Vulcan robes. Not burial robes. They look too not ritualistic. They just look unique. Like there's a strange twist to them. But they have the same cut, the same conceits, the same design patterns that you see in a lot of the simplistic, almost Zen-like nature of Vulcan attire. But it's ritualistic looking. Their head is also covered in, partially covered in a hood. But you can hear them talking briefly. One of them is saying something about pay defeat no mind. This too can be undone. The Jem'Hadar responds, not all the founders agree. The hooded figure replies, something, you can't make it out, but it's a feeling more than it is words that you're hearing to Aeon. You hear distinctly mention or feeling that somebody is mentioning time. And that the course of the galaxy will be changed. Then you hear the words, victory is not now, victory comes later, from this hooded figure. When suddenly the Jem'Hadar looks directly at you, suddenly edges over and looks directly into your eyes. And for a moment, even though he's looking at you, you get the feeling he can't see you. But his attention is still somehow drawn to you, which is suddenly making you feel a bit like an animal in the bushes that was hiding from the lions, and the lions might have caught your scent. The Jem'Hadar glances in your direction. The hooded figure slowly looks in your direction, and you see their face. They are Romulan, clearly, judging from the ridges on their forehead, but no sign of anything from the Romulan military. This person looks completely different. She looks like she is an elderly woman, dark black hair, and angular features, like a very sharp looking jaw, but her eyes are what grab your attention. They're so focused. These dark black eyes, the way she looks over at you. It's almost as if you were looking at a slightly younger Romulan Judi Dench. The intensity on her face as she stares at you is a presence, to be sure. The Jem'Hadar says, we are detecting the presence of antichronotons. And that's when she says, it is an echo. Kill him. The Jem'Hadar turns and starts striding towards you, and without hesitation raises this Polaron rifle to your face and opens fire. You awake gasping in agony on the floor of the holodeck. But what's shocking, as you break free of this vision dream, you look down and see a blackened scorch mark on your uniform and smoke drifting up from a shot to the chest. You just see the smoke wafting up from this wound.
I will scramble to my feet.
No, you don't. As you start to pull yourself up to your feet, your arms give out and you realize you took a lot more stress damage than you thought you did. If you would like to, you can spend to avoid a wound, but you are actually injured right now.
Oh, okay.
So if there is any momentum to spend here, you can use it to avoid an injury.
I believe we have 2 with the new coming into the new scene.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
yeah. I'll use one.
Okay.
I'll
So
for sure.
You are currently maxed out on stress damage. So as you start, your instinct is to pull yourself up off the ground. But as you do, you feel your strength suddenly give way. The muscles in your pectorals, as they pull in response to your arms pushing yourself up off the ground, it suddenly feels like your body is wet paper and the fibers of your muscles are being slowly pulled apart. The injury is, you need immediate medical attention.
by chance, could I spend the momentum to have Jaren walk into the holodeck?
On the condition that you walk in knowing that you were being invited here to observe, expecting to find your Vulcan security officer or tactical officer essentially just doing some research. But if you would like, if you would like to make a fact true, I will allow you to spend 2 momentum to have Jaren appear on scene.
Yeah, I never mind the boxing gloves. I wasn't going to try and talk him into sparring.
Okay, so we only have one, so
You're
we
gonna
would have to give threat.
You're gonna have to give me a threat if you want it.
Okay.
All
I'm
right.
down with that. You guys down with that?
I'm gonna give a point to
Sure,
threats.
fine.
All right.
You walk in just in time to see Aeon thinking that he can get up and realizing he's not getting up. You see your chief's tactical officer lying in the center of the holodeck with what looks like a lethal blaster, like perhaps a point blank phaser shot or something directly to the center of his chest.
Medical, I need you ready to receive permission for on-site transport to medbay. Holodeck, what are your safety settings?
Safety protocols are currently active.
Captain, since to recreate what happened 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, you'll do your mission report. You'll do your report later. I'm going to I would like to check and see if it's safe for me to pick him up.
That's going to be yeah, probably it's safe to get him to his feet, but if he's about to do a site-to-site transport, if you want to beam with him, you can certainly do that.
Yes, I am not letting this guy out of my sight.
Okay. Wait. Just to recap, first you give Eric currency for complication, then you put yourself in a position to be Tuvixed. Thank you.
I'll let you all know. For just the one that I haven't finished. I understand the reference partially. I hear that too.
Can you think of anything that would be more aggro to Noir to Tuvix him with Drac?
Either we're walking out of the airlock or we become the most powerful being in the galaxy. There is no in-between.
So that's why you set it up. I mean, it's good narrative. I understand your choice. I just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
No, I'm banking that threat for this one. You hear on the channels immediately. You hear, copy that, Captain. Site-to-site transfer. Emergencies transport is initiating right now. Stand by.
All right, we're gonna get you taken care of. Hold on.
Immediately, the glow of a transporter beam surrounds the two of you, and you hear the chimes of the energizing transporter beam carry you both to the main medical bay here on Starbase 16. When you beam in, having detected who the injured party is, you were beamed directly onto a medical bed to Aeon. Unto which you see a human doctor immediately rush up to you, followed by 2 nurses. And immediately you get hypo-sprayed. One of the nurses gently pushes you back just a foot or two, Captain, to give them space and says, "Can you tell us what happened?" as they start going to work right away. And before you even get the word out of your mouth, you hear the doctor say, "It's a polaron blast. I've seen this before in the war. I need 30 cc's." Just turns around and starts giving out commands to some of the other nurses.
Unboxing is a far simpler and safer program. I'm going to need engineering to investigate the holodeck. We have safety settings that don't appear to be functioning properly. Also, I would like tactical to have a sweep of the starbase, make sure we don't have any intruders with a... What was that word?
Starbase 16 essentially is going to go on to yellow alert. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
You immediately call it in, Starbase 16. The entire starbase goes on to yellow alert. Docking procedures are put on hold. Defense fields are activated. Shields don't go up, but security teams all over the station are alerted. A possible intruder has been detected. An officer has been reported shot at point blank range. Everything goes into lockdown.
Captain, I need you to check where I went for the past 5 minutes. 5 minutes before you saw me, you found me. Where was I?
You were in the holodeck. I have engineering running a thorough diagnostics of the holodeck. If you were to have left, if there were any sort of transport signal, we'll be able to detect it. First and foremost, doctors, is he okay?
The doctor looks up at you and says, I don't know yet. Captain, I need a little time with him. Can you please step back and give us some space? And I'm going to need the room. No more talking. Lay back for me, okay?
Tim will lay back.
They take this small laser scalpel and just do a quick zzz and pull your uniform open. And Captain, as you're being pushed away, you see Aeon's chest get exposed. You see the area subtly hidden, but you see the cybernetics crafted onto the side of Aeon's body. But at the center of Aeon's chest, it looks indeed like he took a weapon shot at point blank. The skin, the smoke, the smell, he's been shot. It looks bad. However, his vitals look like they're okay as you're being pushed out. You see immediately a force field go erect around the medical bed, and as it does, total silence. You don't hear anything inside. As you see the medical teams moving back and forth, and his vitals are up on the wall.
I think Jan has to take a quick moment to steady himself because that Bajoran rage is kicking in because somebody just hurt one of his. And yeah, he's kind of like just being hawkish on the tactical team, on the sweep, and on engineering. I think he's going to chime into engineering. I have reason to believe that there may have been a transport inside of the holodeck running during the program. I need assurances that the lieutenant stayed in place. Please give me that information as soon as you have it. Thank you.
Okay, so station security is basically going to find out if anybody was coming in or leaving, if there was a transporter signal while Aeon was in there. Sure enough, as you guys are doing this, it is worth noting that at that point, Admiral Grotto comes storming in. Admiral Crom storms into the room. The Tellarite looks at you and then glances over at the medical bed and says, "What the hell happened here, Captain?"
I found Lieutenant Taeon on the floor in the holodeck. We were to go over research into. He had reason to research the Jem'Hadar. We were going to go over his discoveries together. When I got there, he was on the floor, and now the doctors are doing what they can.
He nods and says, "Well, the station is currently on a quick lockdown. Yellow alert's been called and security teams are being called in, and I've already had the footage of what happened in the holodeck."
I need to see that footage immediately. Sorry.
He doesn't take any umbrage at all to your demand to see it. He moves over to one of the walls and you see him tap it. The wall comes to life. You see the LCARs immediately pop up, enters a quick command code, and you see the footage. You see 20 feet behind you, Aeon is currently having his life saved by a medical team. In front of you, you see footage of Aeon sitting down on the meditation pillow as the computer is logging him. First, you see the conversation he has with the Jem'Hadar. Then you see him call up what looks like a ship's quarters of some kind. And he sits down, lighting incense and candles, and begins to meditate. A few moments later, you see him, through some unseen force, get hit in the chest and go sailing across the room. The Admiral just squints and looks in and goes, "What the hell?" And you see the computers, the sensor readout. There is nobody in the room with him.
Admiral, do you know anything about Vulcan spirituality?
Only what I've read. I know that they don't typically do this.
No. But Lieutenant Tayan is not a typical officer, sir.
Suppose not. Or at the very least, he's found himself wrapped up in something. And he glances back over at the medical bed. I'm going to get a full sensor sweep on everything that happened in that room.
I'll be checking in with engineering to see if there's anything further that they have to report. And if I may, sir, I would like to join the sweep. Do we know if the space is housed any Jem'Hadar recently?
Jem'Hadar, no. Jem'Hadar are not allowed this deep into the Alpha Quadrant.
Yeah.
As per the treaty, they are monitored coming through the wormhole.
Starfleet is nothing but a place of exceptions I've seen.
Only the ambassador staff is allowed to cross through the wormhole as per the treaty. But if there has been some kind of incident, it is known that Jem'Hadar have the ability to cloak themselves. But it's unlikely one would have gotten on board to attack a lone Vulcan meditating in a holodeck. I'll figure out what our sensors have to say, but I'll keep that in the back of my mind. In the meantime, Captain, I'm going to have to ask that you keep this on the down low for now. If the Jem'Hadar are involved somehow, Starfleet intelligence is going to want to be involved with this immediately.
Understood. Wait, what did you said? Lone Vulcan.
Well, there's only one here.
Lieutenant Commander Tavine.
There is no reply.
Admiral, if I might ask one more favor from you.
Go ahead.
I had a conversation with Lieutenant Commander Tayan. He recently partook in a mind meld with another of my officers, one that I can't seem to get in contact with. I need resources to find my commander.
Tavine is the name.
Yes.
Computer, location of Commander Tavine. Commander Tavine is not on Starbase 16.
Oh my God.
Where was the last place you saw your officer, Captain? We were at the bar. You feel the Tellarite's hand squeezing your arm and says, Captain, don't worry. We're going to get to the bottom of this. Let's put our resources together and figure out what the hell is going on here.
Maybe
An officer being attacked on my station? Not on my watch.
Perhaps we could scramble some of our peregrines to go. Thank you, Admiral. I need a moment.
As he's about to leave, you see the doctor approaching the two of you. Pulls back his medical hood and just says, he's going to be all right. It looks like the damage is largely superficial on the external layer. So it's the impact. Whatever it was that hit him like it was at point blank range, and it has the same force as a weapon being fired. I can't see any signs of an energy signature, but there was for a brief instant a strange presence of chronoton particles. Do you know anything about that?
I know a bit about that, but I'd love to connect you with someone more well-versed. And I would like to reach out to our science officer, Ivrali.
Cut to Ivrali, who is just finishing giving their big inspirational speech to their research team. So you see, it's basically like we have this whole room to ourselves for a science party nonstop, and we're going to figure out this whole time thing. So thank me later, but let's get to work, okay? And then you hear a chirping sound. This is Ivrali. Go ahead.
Ivrali, your expertise is required in the med bay at Starbase as soon as possible.
Duty calls. Okay, everybody, just keep doing the science thing, and I'll be right back. And with that, they pivot and say, sure, what's going on, Captain? Do you need me to beam directly there?
Yes. I'm going to need you to give our Admiral here a rundown of our experiences with the anti-chronotons.
Ooh, it's getting serious. Yes, sir. On it. Oh, let me get my my tricorder. I'll be right there.
Thank you. You will know everything that there is to know by the time of Raleigh is done, and you'll be up to speed. This is not our first run-in with these particles. There seems to be some sort of temporal anomaly that is coinciding with them, which leads me to believe. I don't think, and this is only a working theory, I would like to have our science team work on this more, but it may not be a matter of where Lieutenant Commander Taeon went. It may be a matter of when.
You see the Admiral Crom shakes his head and says, you know, I thought when I got a job on a starbase, I wouldn't have to deal with any more of these temporal shenanigans anymore. I thought if you're in one space, you don't have to deal with this anymore.
I have learned very quickly that the chair means that you have to deal with the unexpected. I imagine the higher it goes, the heavier it gets.
You become desensitized. Let's put it that way.
I can't wait. But until then, I need to get a hold of my crew, all of my crew. I am putting a call out for Commander Cadence.
Okay. Yeah, Hata Ben responds. You find out that Lieutenant Commander Pavin is currently walking on the hull of the Pride, conducting repairs. Dr. Conway was actually in the middle of a chess game, but so he'll be showing up soon. But when you get to Commander Cadence, it is dead silence. And when you ask the computer, you hear the echoing age-old phrase, Commander Cadence is not currently on Starbase 16.
I hope that they're not dead so that I could kill them both. All right. I'm just going to book a conference room for my crew so I can account for everybody. This is the babysitter that, like, one of the kids went to the basement and they weren't prepared for it. Like, shit.
10 minutes. The bridge crew of the Pride, of what's left of it, is currently assembled in a temporary conference room that you have that is currently looking out over the repair yard for the USS Pride. You see Commander Ben is looking a little, she looks a little concerned, and that is something, because when Hata Ben looks concerned, that very large expressive face of hers takes an almost anime style expression of looking worried. She doesn't have a very good poker face when she's got concerns. Everyone in the room has noted that there are 2 empty seats here. And then a third, because as the last person comes in is Lieutenant Commander Pavin, who, by the way, is still in his EV suit, just holding his helmet, and says, sorry, Captain, I didn't know how long this was going to take, and I wanted to be able to just jump right back out there as soon as we were done. And he sets the helmet down. Oh, and he sits down into the chair. Everyone is quietly looking at you.
I have a few questions. They may seem strange, but I will need you to answer them as thoroughly as possible in the tablets that have been provided to you. I need to know if you have encountered any. Like he just remembers. I think we're keeping it quiet. Okay. Right. Have you encountered any anomalies, any temporal anomalies? Have you?
Raleigh's hand immediately shoots up.
Not you.
Their hand goes right back down.
I also need the last time any of you interacted with either Lieutenant Commander Taeon, Lieutenant Commander Tavine, and Lieutenant Commander Cadence.
Everyone kind of glances at one another, and you see Pavin slowly say, you see his hand slowly rise for a second and says, sir?
Yes.
I didn't interact with them myself, but I've been doing a bunch of repairs, and Deck Chief Santos, I believe, interacted with Commander Cadence recently.
All right. Thank you. I'm going to ask you all to hold here for hold here for a moment. We are conducting a few investigations on the starbase. Our admiral may have questions for you, so just stay put. And with that, he's gonna quietly back out of the room and go to find the shuttle hand.
Raleigh immediately pipes up and says, "Captain, where is Commander Cadence, Tavine, and Aeon?" And is immediately headed off by Hata, who just says, "Lieutenant, the captain will get to that." Okay.
Just out of there, I'm going to the shuttle bay.
You could
Okay.
probably just call Santos. Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could have Santos beam over here.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I'm having Santos bring.
You have
bring
him.
that
You
tail.
basically summon Santos. Santos arrives on scene and steps into the room. He's a little informal as per usual. When he's working out on deck, he usually wears the gray undershirt with the yellow operations jacket, kind of open. He comes walking in the room and stops as he looks at his data pad and says, "Captain, sorry, I'm not in full uniform. I was doing a lot of work on the deck. We're conducting repairs, coordinating here with Pavin, who is clearly just being a slacker here at your table, sir. What can I do for you?"
I was told that you recently interacted with Lieutenant Commander Cadence and Lieutenant Commander Tavine. I was wondering if you could tell me about that interaction, when it occurred, and what those two.
You just hear he lowers his head and he goes, "Híjole." You hear him for a moment. He goes, "Yes, sir. Commander Cadence, came into the shuttle bay maybe about an hour ago and logged a request to the use of a shuttlecraft with their sister, and the two of them were just basically going to be taking a shuttlecraft around the system and right back to the Pride. Cadence didn't really tell me exactly what they were up to."
They're what?
He taps on the data pad and holds it up and says, "Yeah, they took one of the shuttlecraft out just for a quick ride. They did a quick loop and they were going to be coming right back." It is worth noting, sir, I should go ahead and add this, that about 20 minutes ago, we logged a neutrino burst precisely where their location was. And he brings it up on the screen. And you see a brilliant flash and a zoom into the sensors where you see the shuttlecraft. From this angle, it looks like the shuttlecraft blows up for a second as you see the neutrino burst. And then it goes right back to normal and you just see the shuttlecraft just slowly drifting out in space. And he says, we're about at the point where they should have been circling back and calling in, but we haven't had any, alarming developments. I didn't think anything of the neutrino burst. That just looked to me like Cadence being Cadence.
I see. I'll report this to the Admiral immediately.
Does Jared know their siblings yet? Has that ever
No,
been
he
explicitly
just
said out loud?
found out. He's just found out.
Even better.
It's like he's just no
Yeah,
surnames.
It's not just you, by the way, because there's
Yeah,
other
everyone.
members at the. You see a Raleigh lean across the table and goes, "Cadence has a sister." And Pavin looks up from his data pad and goes, "I don't know," and goes back to his data pad.
Like a couple of things are like locking into place, but it's like captain mode right now. We can't.
Right.
So it's just. I'm going to thank you. This is a huge relief. He does say that part out loud. He just thank you. I'm going to report to the Admiral. If he has any other questions, he will come here to ask you all directly. And if he does not, I'll return to dismiss all of you. Thank you so much for your time, patience, and insight into this investigation. As soon as he walks out of the door, it's like, "Sister!"
That's a good button to stop for our break. So we will be back in 10 minutes. We'll see you then. Welcome back. Sorry for being a little late. While we were at break, something I ordered just came in. I'm very excited about it. For the rest of this episode, I will be drinking tea from my Star Trek Picard tea mugs from TNG. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to pour myself a cup of ginger tea right now. I don't have Earl Grey because, like most people who have brains, Earl Grey is nasty. I'm going to go ahead and just. I'm
TNG.
sorry. Earl Grey is not. That is an aftertaste that does not deserve to live in this world. But other English teas are fantastic. Earl Grey. I don't know what the hell Kat was thinking. Anyway,
You don't like my joke? You don't like my joke? Is that what's happening?
What'd you say?
Didn't like it when I said it either.
Wait,
I
I missed it.
Too.
Sam put in the chat, yeah.
Oh, I didn't see it. See it over there. It's a
It's almost like
TNG.
a siblings or something.
I think the real people
I'm just
in
willing
danger
to
of
be
a mind
disruptive.
meld is Sam and Caitlin, honestly.
Drew, do you see what I have to put up with?
Yeah, just wait till we play characters who actually like each other. It'll be fun.
What, on the 12th of Never?
Exactly.
The 12th of Never. Why don't we pick up on our other scene that was on hold with our 3 characters in the shuttlecraft beaming on board a Klingon battle cruiser. Cadence, as you materialize on the transporter pad of the IKS Drovna, it all comes flooding back to you in vivid detail. Whereas before, it just felt like remembering a dream and a familiarity and a knowledge you've been here. When you reappear on the transporter pad, it's like, oh my God, how did I forget? It just comes flooding back to you. For the rest of you, you're seeing it for the very first time. The rest one of you and my NPC. Seeing it for the very first time, this darkened Klingon transporter pad. It's large. This is a transporter room that looks a little bit larger than the transporter room that you would find on board a Galaxy-class starship. Not unusual, as Klingons like to filter a lot of power into their transporter pads because boarding actions are very popular in Klingon combat. Lots of use of beaming Becks over by the dozen. When you all appear upon this transporter pad, though, you find yourself in those darkened shadows. Everything's a little bit darker on board of a Klingon ship. It's always been like that. They prefer it. Also, the temperature, very different. It is much warmer in here as you all beam in. Yeah, your Vulcan self feeling a little more comfortable. Like, finally, someone who gets it. But as you materialize, you see the very familiar form. And indeed, you can tell just from your siblings' description, Tavine, that this has to be the colonel that they encountered. The Cross, the daughter of Makor. You see her standing there. The colonel is wearing this thick-looking cloak that drops down over her back and is fully armored up. By her side, it looks like she has a targ that has a bit of a limp. But her arms are folded as you all materialize. She's flanked by a couple of Becks that are obediently standing behind her. She looks directly at you, Cadence, and says, "So, you remembered." And a toothy grin on her face. And then you hear Bob go, "Oh my God, you're Klingon traitors," which immediately causes the 2 Klingons in the back to stiffen.
Could we not put him back on the ship? I have a feeling you will not enjoy his company.
Seize the Tellarite.
Well, don't do that.
The 2 Becks obediently step onto the transporter pad and move past the 2 of you and grab the Tellarite. You see them force Bob up onto his feet and drag him down off the transporter pad to face her. And she leans into him and says, "Traitor is a word that gets one killed on board a Klingon ship. Traitor being flung around as an accusation would require someone to prove that the other is a traitor. Do you know how Klingons prove their loyalty?" Bob just looks at her and says, "I'm going to guess it has something to do with death." "Yes, it does have something to do with death. Do you wish to die, Tellarite?" No, it's not really in my job description. It's not supposed to be." "Then keep your mouth shut and let your betters speak." And for the first time in y'all's experience of knowing Bav Paben, the Tellarite reporter, he does not have a comeback. He keeps his mouth shut. And then he turns back and says, "Cadence of the USS Pride, you've brought someone with you, 2 with you this time."
One was an unintentional stowaway, but the other was even more unintentionally my sister. May I please present Lieutenant Commander Tavine of the USS Pride?
She nods and says, "Follow me to my ready room, as you would call it."
We do.
Colonel, what do we do with the Tellarite? I would throw him in the brig, but I suspect these two would be unhappy with that. If he can continue to obediently keep his mouth shut, he may attend. The Tellarite just nods. She says, "Oh, look. He learns. Good boy."
We appreciate your indulgence, Colonel, and your patience.
She pivots, and they let the Tellarite go. You can see the jaw clench, but he keeps his mouth shut. You guys are led through a couple of decks. You are drinking this in, Tavine. You are on board undoubtedly what appears to be a Klingon battlecruiser. There's no doubt in your mind that this is a Vorcha class battlecruiser. These have become the workhorse war cruisers of the Klingon Navy. It was for a long time. It was a bird of prey variant that was the workhorse, especially during the Dominion War, but these took more prevalence. These starships used to be the flagships of the Klingon High Command. And even though they are slowly being phased out, they are still known as some of the deadliest battle cruisers in all of the major navies that Starfleet has encountered. Easily a match for a Sovereign class starship. The Vorcha hosts enormous amounts of firepower. These were used to tremendous efficiency during the Dominion War. So walking through the corridors and taking it all in, you can't help but note how sparse it is. Klingons are known for only bringing what is useful. There is no luxury on this ship. When you finally reach what would be considered her ready room, what it actually looks like is an empty galley with no one currently seated in there taking meals right now. She walks to one of the tables and pulls a mug and sets it down and starts to set aside mugs for everyone. The Becks remain with her as she pours a couple of these mugs filled with a dark red liquid, which you can already guess which it is, and slides it over. And she pauses as she looks at you and then pushes it towards you, Tavine. And she says, "I do not know the customs that Vulcans have when it comes to alcohol.
Above table, remind me if I'm correct, that Vulcans don't handle alcohol well. Or it doesn't affect them?
Typically, Vulcans don't handle alcohol well. We've had some pretty great moments with Spock, but...
yeah, I was like, yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah.
I appreciate the offering. It may not sit quite well with me.
There's definitely a grin on her face when you say that. And she says, "Please, let us talk. You have found me, which means you know now that I am tracking you."
We hoped as much. We rather wondered where else you might even go right now.
There is nowhere for us to go. And we are encountering problems. She takes a long drink. Some of the liquid spills off the side of her mouth, and she just puts her mug down and wipes her face and says, "We have technically been away from dock for over 14 months, and we have not been able to acquire the same maintenance and upkeep that starships of our size and power require. Soon the ship will start suffering system failures. It is only so long a starship like this can go without maintenance. My engineers are skilled, but our time is starting to run out."
Starfleet does have very fine engineers and will readily.
She waves her
lend
hand.
assistance.
"It won't work. They cannot help us. The same
And
thing
get
that
weird
happened to you when you left the ship the first time will happen to you again when you leave this time. You had trouble remembering us, did you not?
I appreciate the knife. It was helpful to that end.
She nods. Good. It did not disintegrate like the others did.
Oh, well. How can we help?
She reaches into her cloak and she pulls out that data pad again. You see that it has a Starfleet symbol on it with a slight variation to it. It looks different somehow. She sets it down directly in front of her, not within reach. And she says, I need access to this. But I have conditions. I'm in a tricky situation. I do not know who to trust, and I am taking what you would call a leap of faith on you. And now you. And her eyes narrow a little bit when she looks at you, to Aeon.
Taveen.
Oh, sorry, Taveen. She says, your starship exhibits traits similar to mine. I need to understand why. Something tells me it's because you have a role to play in all of this. But before I divulge any more, I need to know what is on this data pad that was given to me.
Cadence looks a little uncomfortably over to Taveen. This was the subject of contention my last time here, lacking authorization.
Is there a
You were
middle
knives to my
ground?
throat this time.
More agreeable. Is there a middle ground where perhaps we could see what's on the pad before handing it over?
She slowly shakes her head. She says, no. I was given the data pad on the condition that only I see what is upon it. The fool did not mention that only a Starfleet officer could access it.
Are you at liberty to name the fool?
She seems hesitant. And finally she says, he did not give me a name. He only told me that he was also Starfleet.
Taveen is following Cadence's lead here. I will say that you are the one who has had this conversation before.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
saw how it went last time.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But, you know, she doesn't know that.
Except insofar as I've exposited.
Hmm.
We have reached the limits of your trust or capacity to extend trust to us. We have reached the limits of what we may do under Starfleet authorization. And they look to Taveen and they make eye contact with Bragg to make sure he sees who is doing what.
Yeah. Bragg is definitely taking all of this in. He's sitting there very quietly, just rubbing his knuckles like he's pondering all of this and just not saying a word, but he's listening very closely.
Good. If he is watching that I am doing this, I'm grabbing the pad and unlocking it. It wasn't my sister, it was me.
You reach your hand out to take the pad, and she pulls out a disruptor, places it on the table, and hands you the data pad. When you take the data pad, it immediately responds to you. and you see the screen swirl to life as an image of the Federation begins to appear on the front. You don't see any place to enter a code. You don't see any input points. It would be like if somebody in the late 90s was handed an iPad. As you're looking at it, it just doesn't look like there's anything to tap or touch.
Biometrics, perhaps? Voice print?
It seems to
No.
respond when you say that out loud. And you see the Federation logo begin to swirl for a second, and then your name begins to slowly appear on the surface of the datapad.
The design language of the logo that swirls.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've seen the logo, and moreover, you've seen how it has changed decade by decade, century by century. There's a design language.
Mm-hmm. There is.
What does it look like?
Unlike anything you have seen before.
And not anything that has previously been in Starfleet records.
Not a
has it?
single
But it
variation
looks
of
like there has been a design update since
Oh, yes.
that is present on this. Thank you.
Indeed.
Okay.
It resembles very much, the design logo itself resembles a very minimalistic approach to the UFP logo itself.
Yep. All right. This thing reminds me of Peaches. Pad, decrypt sensitive data, authorization, cadence, Alpha 42069.
You see a wave link begin to appear on the center of the pad. And you hear, emanating from a pad, a vaguely neutral voice just say, Commander Cadence. I understand that you don't exactly have the language that you think you require in order to access this pad, but I too, in your situation, might also try everything I did know from the computer and technology of my time. However, I do have your DNA records on file and can confirm that it is you. I also have to assume that since you are accessing me, that my agent must be dead, and that we are now in Red Protocol.
Delineate components of Red Protocol, if you'd be so kind.
I'm afraid I can't do that, unfortunately. It has been left to my design that a particular person is only allowed to access this datapad once unlocked.
That is correct. I have this person nearby. Will you disclose files to her?
To an extent. I have protocols to follow, unfortunately.
And beyond that?
I can't speculate, unfortunately.
Anyone at this spatio-temporal address who might have such authorization?
I'm afraid that I'm going to have to frustrate you again, Commander.
With a no or a maybe?
I'm afraid I can't answer that. My protocols do not allow me to discuss any instances of temporal manipulations or occurrences, including agents or anybody who might be active.
That was very useful. Thank you.
You're welcome, Commander.
What else am I not supposed to know? Just so that I don't ask any inadvertent questions, of course.
You certainly should not know that this is a data pad from a temporal agent from roughly 400 years into your future. A future which now no longer exists.
That certainly sounds like something I shouldn't know.
You see the colonel across the table from you is staring at this exchange with wide eyes.
anything else I should be mindful not to ask? I would hate to put you in a position to violate your protocols or to tell me no. I'm sure that has to be terribly upsetting.
Only that my state of origin is from 400 years of the current timeline, but that is not the origin from which I have traveled.
So, if one were to source parts, one certainly shouldn't look. Remind me?
I'm afraid I can't do that. I'm doing the best that I can at the moment, Commander. One does have to get quite clever, especially when we are, as my old agent used to say, off the map. You may call me Prism. I'm a companion AI to the agent that used me during his mission. I've been designated to be the companion to one Colonel Vakros, daughter of Makor of House Grukos.
Yep, that sounds about right.
That's me. She stands. Yes, it would appear to be, the AI says. Unusual that he should pick a Klingon. I imagine he must have been quite desperate, considering that the Federation and the Klingons, from the time period of which I am coming from, were not exactly on the best of terms.
Well, no need to be rude about it.
If you understood, Lieutenant Commander, I promise you, I am not being rude.
Maybe from your timeline standards, but clearly it's not the case here.
How does the Colonel react to that notion? Is it surprising in any way? Is this clearly known information?
No, she looks a little confused by that and says, why did this agent come to me? Why did he die in my arms? What killed him? What was this? What is all of this? And you hear the AI say, I'm afraid that might take a moment to tell. But if you are willing to listen, I can give you the brief rundown. We're waiting. Of course. Put simply, centuries from now, there will be the height of what it will be known as the temporal war. By the end of this temporal war, all time travel will be outlawed and banned. Across the galaxy, temporal travel will no longer be allowed. I see. She takes a seat. Go on. However, naturally, there were a few who were still on mission when this law was passed. Many of them had to be retrieved, brought back. Missions had to be canceled. It was a messy affair, to say the least. Agents were having to be sent after agents and to prove that the war was over, and that branching and destruction of timelines could now be stopped. There was one, however, that decided to use their considerably powerful weapon to their own ends. Go on. This AI talks infuriatingly slow. Forgive me, but it is in my programming not to divulge any of the information that I am giving you now, as it could be a considerable disruption to the timeline. This is a very unique situation. Put simply, during the temporal war, a Romulan scientist created a type of anti-time weapon that allowed it to cloak itself perfectly from both physical and chronological events. Brought back and inspired by some of the technologies encountered in the Delta Quadrant by the USS Voyager, this Romulan vessel was able to create a cloaking device that would allow it to manipulate temporal events and leave no trace of its presence, making it essentially a ghost in time. However, the technology was quite unstable. The antichronoton particles that it left behind in its wake would usually cause rifts, sometimes ghost effects. In fact, once activated, could even cause something of an energonic splash effect onto the vessels nearby. This would allow the Romulan vessel to essentially alter timelines and be untraceable, creating alternate realities and new versions of timelines, trimming and destroying as it saw fit. It was impossible to locate this Romulan vessel initially, but my agent was able to finally locate it, thanks to an encounter that happened some 70 years from this previous timeline. Though my calculations are something of an estimate, it's difficult to actually track the moments, as this particular vessel is quite good at cloaking itself from recorded history. It encountered an Excelsior-class starship some 80 years ago called the USS Pride during a battle in an asteroid field. It was an initial event that set off the chain of reactions that allowed us to track the anti-chronotons as it was moving through the system. We do not know this Romulan's initial or even greater plans, but we do know that it is currently making moves for some kind of spectacular stellar event that we are currently tracking.
The weapon they had, it would require high energy, like from that place with the battle. We have to be able to find them somehow.
We encountered this ship and we engaged it. Its weapons were beyond anything we had encountered before. It disabled us in a single shot, but then it left us to die. When we repaired our vessel had cloaked on its own. We have not been able to uncloak since. We discovered was no one remembered us. Our entire house, everything had been wiped. We don't even have a place waiting for us in Greythor. We are forsaken. How is this possible? Prism speaks up and says, the anti-chronoton effect is not fully understood. But the technology allows this Romulan vessel to essentially wipe things out of a timeline, including people. It is one of the reasons why it has been so difficult to track.
Difficult, but not impossible.
My agent believed that it was possible. The technology itself, though powerful, is highly unstable. What he discovered is that each time the technology was used, it would leave traces behind. In the case of the USS Pride, it was able to absorb some of the molecules into its superstructure. Though over time, when not near a power source, these molecules would eventually fade and return to the normal timeline. But whenever they would come in contact with something of an older power source, they would find a way to reinstate themselves. This doesn't make any sense. She stands up. Why can we not decloak? Why have we been erased from the timeline? Prism says, I'm sorry, but I don't know. The nature of this technology is not fully understood to us. It seems to be unstable.
Unstable, and yet being out of time, that state appears to be stable, the result. At least for the Colonel and her ship and crew.
There is a theory that it is not sustainable. The enormous amount of energy that would be required to operate such a device, such a vessel, surely, eventually, over time, especially in a time period that it does not belong, would cause the same effects of degeneration in the timeline. But this is only a theory. The instability and the splash effect that the anti-chronoton variants have would indicate that it is not a clean technology.
Will that require progressively more power to maintain them?
Theoretically, yes. So, she speaks up. We find out where they would need to go for more power. We find our vessel. And we already know that they're drawing upon older power sources. Are they doing this out of necessity or because it is less likely that they will be noticed?
I'm going to go with yes.
Colonel, did you and your ship remove any power sources from Lavarin 2?
No.
Then it must have been connected to this. That's who you were tracking, was this ship. They were
Yes.
the
It also
ones who
gives
took
us
the
a
power
baseline
cells.
power requirement. Whatever was taken from Laverne 2, they would need more next time if projections are correct about expanding power requirements to maintain the unstable cloak.
Prism, do you have any idea of how long, I know time is an odd measure here, but how long this weapon has been active in its own experience of time?
Unfortunately, the chaotic nature of this weapon is actually causing a disruption to what I have on record.
Mm.
The events that I have recorded and the tracking that we used to use in order to hunt down and stop deviants from the temporal wars have become unreliable thanks to the manipulations of this particular vessel. My agent was in the process of trying to surmise what their motivation was and what their end game was, but unfortunately, they caught on to us.
You know, it's been at least 14 months of your time. I nod to the colonel.
Internal ship chronometers say so, yes.
So at minimum, I suppose. But that doesn't give us too much for measuring degradation or power refills. I wonder if we could do a broader search of reports of missing power cells. This Lavarin 2 wasn't even too concerned. They didn't even have a proof, I guess, that the power cells were gone because they were so old and because it was such a busy area. But maybe we can put out some feelers and see if it turns up, if we can make any connections there.
Bases, old ships, abandoned factories.
If anyone's noticed, we need the information.
None of which stabilizes this ship.
None of which stabilizes the ship.
I have another question. Prism. This anti-chronoton variant, every time a member of my crew has tried to leave the ship, they have disappeared. Can you explain why? No, I'm afraid I cannot. I can only assume that the saturation of the anti-chronoton variants in biological life forms can have a terminal effect if they are ever separated from their current timeline. If you have been erased from this particular timeline, leaving your ship might be the same as simply stepping into another time stream. In which case, you might gradually become unstable and eventually vanish from existence. We are trapped. In this dying prison of a ship, we are trapped. We cannot face our foe. We cannot find him. You see the jaw clench. This is beyond worse than Greythor.
More than just the two of us have knowledge of you now.
How
From
long
what-
will that knowledge stay once you leave my vessel?
I mean, besides us, others know. We know how Cadence was able to remember the last time. Perhaps this encounter may only erase the hour or so we were here, and perhaps not the interim. We have data on file. We have an area that's being studied. It involves all the things we've been learning about you. You've got some anchors, at the very least.
At that moment, everyone at the table realizes that for the past few moments, Brog has been raising his hand.
Better get used to getting ignored. He's
Yeah.
been with these two for very long.
Hasn't said a word, but everyone starts to realize that Brog has just been sitting there just going,
Not my ship. I can't call on him.
yeah. She looks at him and says, "What are you doing?" And then he points at his mouth and she just, "Speak." And he says, well, as a journalist, sometimes we are sent into strange situations, and sometimes she cuts him off and says, "You will need to speak faster, Tellarite. Get to your point." And he says, "I have a device on me that I use to protect my datapad for when I'm writing and recording my experiences in the field. It's very good for little else except for ensuring that it doesn't erase whatever it is that I've created. EMP kind of thing. Protects it. Kind of a trick of the trade. And it is supposed to be resilient against chronoton manipulation. In the odd chance that perhaps I'm on assignment and a warp field bubble fails when I'm near a black hole, for example. So what do you suggest?" "Well, I'm just meaning we might be able to leave ourselves a message that we can listen to and have on record, theoretically. I've never stepped into a displaced time ship before, but if it works, then maybe you all can like say something to yourselves and remember a little bit better."
You would allow us to do that?
"Sure, I'm not going to miss this scoop. Are you kidding me?" This is great. This is going to be good story on. It's going to nice resume builder, really. Certainly.
I want to see how the Colonel reacted to that.
She doesn't seem interested at all. She's like pondering this for a moment and just says, "The annoying one might have a point. We could probably use his device if it is reliable."
I don't have a better plan right now. Worth a try.
"Does this mean you're going to let us go, by the way?" She rolls her eyes and looks over at him and says, "Next time I kidnap you, do not bring him with you."
I assure you, I will do my utmost to ensure that he is not on any small craft I'm aboard.
Prism speaks up. "Commander, I should let you know that I'm going to have to remain here with Vakras. She is the only one authorized to use me at this rate."
Understood.
Seems like she could use the navigation a little more than us at the moment anyways.
And the moral support.
That too.
She snorts at that.
Yeah. Been a while since you've had anyone new on this ship who wasn't us.
Almost to the moment you say that, there is a chirping sound that you must imagine is the Klingon equivalent to somebody calling the captain. The colonel turns and speaks Klingonese into the communication device. You guys, your universal translator is picking up a word, but engineering is reporting there's still an issue with some of the power coils. And she just... And she turns back to face the two of you and says, "We should limit how much time you spend on this ship."
May I ask the age of this vessel?
"The age of my vessel? It's relatively new, commissioned during the Dominion War."
We fly an old ship. That is my area of expertise. I figured I would
"Yes,
ask."
the Excelsior class. My father was aboard a Borel-class bird of prey back before the Kittimer Accords. He always looked forward to the opportunity to engage the Federation's newest battle cruiser. Unfortunately, it would never come to be." "How is this device used to call forth these ghosts, if that is what is happening?" Prism says, "I'm sorry, but I don't have the information on that. Whatever the weapon is, it allows the ship to manipulate anti-chronoton variants. This might allow it to pull echoes."
Echo.
"Yes. Beings, ships, events even, from other variant, possibly even dead timelines into this present moment and use them against its opponents. It's possible that the bird of prey you fought was an echo of an echo, or it could have been something that actually transpired."
An echo, that's an official term?
Official term, I suppose.
Term of art.
A term that is used to describe this regularly.
Unfortunately, this is the
Phenomenon?
first time any kind of weapon like this has ever been recorded, and we have very little information on it.
I mean, your database refers to them as echoes.
I would say that that is a creative decision on my part, as it best describes what it is the weapon appears to be doing, but more data is required.
We had an odd encounter that referenced echo. We thought maybe was related, then maybe was unrelated, but now I'm thinking perhaps it's related again.
All I can tell you is that whatever the device or weapon that the ship is capable of using allows it to manipulate the ebbs and flow of time. It allows it to cloak itself from the tracings of time events. It essentially allows this ship to manipulate reality as we know it. You cannot trust what you encounter. The anti-chronoton variants are one of the most sophisticated and dangerous manipulations of chronoton particles that has ever been recorded. This vessel could conceivably initiate a catastrophic event that could change the course of all of history, and no one would ever know that it was involved. Not even the creators of my program from my century.
Are there any Jem'Hadar connections to this ship or your agency?
A curious question that you would ask that. My agent did have suspicions, but nothing conclusive.
That's more to go off of than we had before.
Well, if we could get aboard their ship, if I were they, I would have tested my weapon early on, known that it could produce effects such as the one the Colonel's ship's experiencing, and perhaps know something. If there's one thing I would trust them to be capable of, it is extensive research into incredibly harmful weaponry. So if we can flush them out, maybe we can get the information that we need to help you.
Sounds like we have some investigating to do.
Just be aware, if what we estimate about this weapon to be true, it means that the creators and users of this weapon can literally pull just about anything from any moment in time as an echo to throw against you.
The last one we went up against, the damage was phantom. The damage reports came back and then later were deemed false. Was that unique to that encounter, or should we be concerned about real peril?
Prism seems to think about this for a moment and says, all I can surmise is that if this did in fact take place, that it might be a result of the fact that the USS Pride has had contact with these anti-chronoton variants. But I can't say for sure. The next time you have an encounter, it might also be phantom, as you have described it. Or perhaps all that is required is that something closer to your timeline is drawn in. Will it still be phantom then? Simply not enough information is available. The ship has been able to hide itself quite well from all temporal sensor devices from my century, which was, up until this point, considered to be impossible.
Then why were you looking for neutrons, Colonel? The neutron radiation, that was some kind of a trail, no?
She nods and says, we knew we were looking for a cloaked vessel. Romulans have the most sophisticated cloaking devices in the galaxy, but like everyone else, can, on occasion, leave neutron trails. One just has to know how to look. considering some of the technology that we gained during the Dominion War, we've become better at detecting cloaked vessels. We thought we were dealing with a simple renegade Romulan that was using some kind of new weapon. To what end, we did not know. Though we had some theories that it was using the chaos being caused by the great, what do you want to call it, migrations that are taking place in Romulan space right now, as a way of waging a secret war against their Klingon enemies. But I guess this is old thinking.
Your agent, what happened to him? Why did he have to pass on the torch?
He was killed. I'm afraid I do not have a record of exactly who killed him. The truth is, well, even though I was on his persons, my records do not show. And that's when Vakros speaks up and says, a woman. I saw her. A Romulan woman, cloaked in black with a hood. She used some kind of weapon on him. I tried to kill her myself before she vanished before me. And I rushed to the Federation's side. I did not think he was Federation the way he was dressed. He handed me the data pad. Handed me Prism.
This was before your ship became misaligned with time, or after?
During. We were in battle with them when this took place. Wait. You see, suddenly something occurs to her. Why were we in battle? I'm forgetting something. The battle took place on my ship. I do not remember. Why were they on my ship? How could I have forgotten this? The battle took place here. She stands at the table. How am I remembering this? Prism. And is what I am saying accurate? I too have that on record, Prism says.
Why would she forget?
I'm sorry, but I don't know. As I've said before, the technology is unstable and is very difficult to understand.
Were you facing this Romulan, maybe? The same effect?
Perhaps.
Why would they board? What would they want from you?
Why would they board a Klingon vessel? They must have needed something from us. Maybe something was taken from us.
The inventory of your ship, how does it stand versus typical Vorcha outfittings? Is there something prominent missing?
She turns immediately and goes to the wall computer, and you see just start immediately entering command codes. She starts bringing up an inventory of everything in stock on this Vorcha class and starts going through the data, skimming through it. She goes, supplies. Could it be energy? Were they looking for energy, perhaps? Could we have just been in the way? She starts skimming through and stops. Something is missing from a cargo hold 12. And with that, she immediately turns and just beelines out of the room. Brog goes, we're following her, right? Are we going to follow her? Can we? Are we allowed to?
They are out the door.
Yeah, I've got the siblings have gone.
All right.
If the Becks don't stop us, we're following.
A few moments later, you find yourselves in a cargo hold that looks like a container, the inside of the container ship almost, of this Vorcha class vessel. She strides across the decks. Becks immediately stop what they are doing and stand at attention and move aside for all of you as she rounds the corner and comes to a dead stop in front of what looks like it looks like a labeled Klingon cargo hold with a small force field activated. It is completely empty. The only empty one in this cargo hold. And she stares at it and slams her fist with incredible force against the cargo container to her left and spits something out in Klingon that is not repeatable on Twitch.
What was here?
I don't know. It's not in the computer logs. How could it not be in the computer logs? And Prism says that is the extent of time manipulation. They are capable of removing things from the timeline. It is not in your computer logs because this timeline will log that it never existed. That is the extent of the subterfuge of this device. As
There
I
was
said, though,
manipulation with our records as well after our first encounter with your ship.
that would be inconsistency, yes. However, may I recommend scanning for anti-chronoton variants? She immediately pulls out a device, which you imagine is the Klingon equivalent of a tricorder. And as she begins to scan, she goes, "They are present. Faint. Very faint. How would we find out what they are missing?"
It's not memory, it's time.
There must be a
Never-
way.
It never existed, but it did because you are able to remember. We were able to remember.
Yes. Yes, there must be there's a print. There's some footprint being left behind. Otherwise, if it never existed, there was no way I would have ever remembered this being you would never have remembered me. Sloppy technology indeed.
There's an extent, there's a limit. It can be retrieved.
It's not a
So
perfect
what-
cloak.
So how can we consistently pierce it? I'm gonna just YOLO it on in. I'm gonna take a scan for antichronotons. Like, I'm looking for the chalk outline, not the outline of my companion and former pilot, Chalk, son of Custo. Rather, are the antichronotons distributed within this cargo thing 12 in a way representative of any particular object?
Do a fingerprint dusting of antichronotons.
Yeah,
That is going to require a reason science check.
I knew it would.
Yep. And then we're going to cut back here in a second.
Maybe-
Oh, you're muted, Caitlin.
Do they have any science officers we could get in here?
I was about, I was about to. This is
Okay,
Ox Point o'clock.
Yes. Hold on. Let me pull up their science stats here for the. Well, Klingons not being necessarily known for their science stats.
Well, maybe
It might-
some of them fight the stereotypes. Surely we wouldn't be problematic. Surely you're
Hey.
going to give me a one with a good science score so that we don't get canceled, right, Eric?
I'm just saying. Let's come out of the gate. We're out of the gate right now. When I created him over 14 years ago, Zazaret is a science officer. I'm just saying. There are plenty.
Hotness is not a science.
I'm just saying, and technically KDF because it was Star Trek Online. So I'm just saying there are plenty of powerful science officers in the KDF. But
Plenty. All one of them right there.
all yes.
No,
I'm
because you're going to
I'll
give
go
me
ahead and
another
roll
one
it.
because we're not being problematic.
I'm gonna go ahead and just let the dice tell me instead of making this a thing. But I'm gonna go ahead and just roll.
It's got to
Real
be
quick
better than the
and
two of our science.
I don't know what the story is behind the dice tonight, but I rolled a 1 and a 19. So something is up. Something is really up with the dice tonight.
We're flipping coins, guys.
So specifically, what were you trying to ascertain?
I want the outline of the
container itself?
of the antichronotons.
We're
Yeah.
dusting for prints with antichronotons.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, Basically, if there were like a this size generator, maybe the antichronotons have a this size sort of conformity, something that we might be able to infer what it might have been.
So you want to use deduction to try to figure out what may have been put here. And that's really all you've got to go on at this point.
Because deduction isn't memory.
Yeah.
It's reasoning.
It's literally just what's absent and what leads to what was here. So in that case, make me a reason science check, but you are going to get an assist from Vercross, and you can also it's going to be just from Vercross, I think.
Okay. Let's see.
You pull out your tricorder, flip it open.
Yep.
And use that famed Federation
What's the difficulty?
This is going to be one of those rare moments where I don't tell you the difficulty.
We have one. We should have one point because of, or one momentum because of you.
I mean, we'll never have less.
You know what?
if
I'm going to make it fair too. I'm going to burn a threat to do that.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay.
Because I want to see. I've only done that a handful of times, but I want to see what the dice are going to tell us.
Mm.
So
This
we
could
use an aux
conceivably be
point to
the
get
big
the
role of the game.
yeah. We use the aux point to get the assist, right?
You're going to use an aux point?
Yes.
Wasn't that
Oh
what?
yeah,
wasn't
yeah. That's what got us lacrosse.
Okay, so
That's why
technically-
Vicross can help us, right?
what's that?
That's I understood that was why Vicross can help, was because we spent an aux point.
Okay, yeah, I'll allow that. Yeah.
Because frankly, there is a support character in the scene, but that makes no sense.
It's-
So in lieu of that,
um,
the other character in the scene.
if
If it does, I will take that. Don't make me take the aux point back. No, absolutely not. No, I don't care. No.
I'm just going to tell you right now, Brog, do not brush him off when it comes to deductive reasoning. He is a good journalist.
I believe that.
Okay, I'm just putting that out there. But go ahead and do your
Yep.
thing. Yep.
I believe it.
Who do we get to thank from Aux Crew?
Yep. I'm pulling it up right now. Yeah, but go ahead and tell me what you rolled on that.
I will once I've figured out if I have a directive that applies here. Because that's the last. I don't know the difficulty. So when one doesn't
I
know
see.
the difficulty, it's always better to spend more rather than fewer resources,
Mhm, mhm.
especially when it's something that one is garbage at.
Yes, yeah.
To
I mean,
use a technical term.
So when you say directive, you mean specifically like if you can call upon a value or not?
Well, so I have my values in front of me. I'm running through my directives because those are like beyond my values. Do I have anything that might fit better? Running through my directives, seeing if there was anything we ever got with respect to
This.
figure out the effing chronoton thing, the directive.
Roll me a d12.
If Raleigh
if you would,
was,
please. Roll me a
yes.
d12.
All right.
Right.
3.
This was
3. Okay, so this aux point comes to you from one bibliotech.
Oh, yay. Thank you, Bibliotech.
this is a stretch, but
Mhm.
hear me out.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're hypermobile. Let's go.
The ship, the Pride, was given instruction from the captain to give Ivrali any and all resources that they need about the chronotons
Oh,
to be
yeah.
able to solve. Any info we bring back would be helpful
That
for
is, you're
Ivrali
right.
about the chronotons.
Yes, that is correct.
All right. I'm
was an
going to
order.
spend a point of determination
Let's
for an
go.
That is
auto crit
100%.
off that directive.
That is 100% a valid order. Yes.
Rules
Yeah,
lawyer,
there we
attorney
go.
at rules. Let's
That's what
go.
I'm saying is like off in the distance, your captain is basically the one that threw you that line.
Let's go.
I knew he gave us something. Like
Mhm.
our captain never, ever, ever lets us down.
Mhm,
Okay, now we have one crit locked in.
Okay.
And then we have the one momentum
And
for
let
you.
me just roll a quick, and we get it back. Thank you, veteran talent.
Let's go.
Rolled a 2 on that check. Let's go.
We
All
only
right.
roll highs and lows.
I know, right? On a reason science, everything is irrelevant. So 1, 2, 3, 4.
4 successes?
Yes.
Okay.
2 of which are that original crit, so it's like a total of 4.
Okay.
But I got an 11 and a 5, so yeah.
Nice.
Shockingly, I don't have a focus. Like I don't have a science of 5, so like not a focus number. It's fine.
It is perhaps just a stroke of luck, but the containers that surround this missing spot, this missing container spot, are all empty. Each one of them designed for a very specific purpose. As you're scanning them and you see there's 3 containers that are roughly about half the size of a school bus that have been pressed up against the wall and are like in these alcoves that are secured. You notice that them secured inside of these alcoves both use clamps. They use a lot of specialty securing devices that look like it is to protect it. It looks to you, Cadence, when you're looking at this, it's very similar to what you would see ordnance being locked up on a ship, extra protected to make sure that it doesn't ever become a big issue. The initial instinct is that maybe that's what you're looking at, but the inside of these other containers look like they are highly specialized to contain a smaller package that is designed to protect something on the inside that looks like is meant to be used in small amounts, but overly protected, like it is precious cargo that has been stored there.
Bubble wrap mode.
Essentially, yes. 2 of these containers are empty, and it starts to make you think that the third one that is missing might be because it wasn't empty when it was taken. So all you need to do is figure out what was in these 2 containers that are empty now.
Colonel, what was in these 2 containers?
She looks at you and gives you your answer. This is where we kept the reserved dilithium crystal storage.
And so with that.
She looks at the empty space and says, but we only ever had 2. No, we must have had 3. And then it starts to occur to her the power failures of the systems on the ship. They stole our stock of dilithium crystals. What will happen, Prism, when we are forced to decloak? When our power runs out and our cloaking device fails? Prism responds, I'm sorry, but I can only speculate. Then speculate! Theoretically, if the anti-chronoton variance is what's keeping you cloaked, when they lose their charge, your systems fail and you are forced to decloak, as you have said, it seems plausible that you'll be reinserted into a timeline you are no longer a part of and suffer the same fate as my crew members who left the ship. Theoretically, yes. So we will suffer the same fate as our house.
Not if we can help it.
Can't we just get you more dilithium crystals? I mean, that seems like it's an easy thing to do, right?
Might be a band-aid to the problem, but that can't go on forever.
Also, above board, your characters would know. Dilithium crystals? No, that is absolutely not something you just get.
Yeah.
Those are coveted.
They exist in the world. Like,
they are
perhaps,
perhaps,
like,
yeah, they exist in the world, but those are perhaps some of the hardest and most in-demand resources in the entire galaxy. And they are highly protected. They literally make Starfleet function. So it is...
So what I'm hearing is Starfleet has them.
What's that?
All I'm hearing is that means Starfleet has them.
Not only Starfleet, there's other places to get dilithium.
Yeah, we just have to figure out who likes us the most.
Mhm.
Okay, maybe not Starfleet. I'm just remembering who I am. Just everything about my whole personality. Actually, maybe not.
We're going to go ahead and cut back to Starbase 16 as you all sit here in this revelation as to what's going to happen to the Drovna once its cloaking device wears off. Back on Starbase 16, we'll say some time has passed. You are currently in recovery right now to Aeon, but aside from a lot of punishment that you took to your chest, you're feeling okay. It's muscle soreness mostly. The doctor is reviewing your records and says, well, one of the benefits to having a small portion of your upper chest being cybernetic was you were able to absorb some of the punishment from that Polaron blast. But let me tell you something. He flips the tricorder closed and says, Polaron energy is designed specifically to disrupt technology. The Dominion used it to great effect against us during the war. You're lucky. I don't know where it came from, but it has traces of Polaron energy, but it doesn't seem that you have were directly affected by it. I'm still not fully understanding what happened to you, Lieutenant, but I'm glad you're alive. You need to rest. Your captain has been checking on you regularly. So be prepared to answer a lot of questions when he comes back in. You are free to leave, so long as you promise to take it slow.
I'll take it as slow as I can.
There you go. I'm going to give you one of these straight out of your kits that you would have on an away team. And he hands you a hypo spray. And he says, you are to administer this to yourself once a day for the next week. You'll be all right.
Thank you, Doctor.
Do it in the evenings. Trust me.
Okay. And I'll get up and tap my comms. Captain, I'm alive and been discharged.
I think at that the door opens. That's good to hear.
You can hear the echoing of your own voice in his comm badge as the door opens.
Sorry, is someone not wearing headphones?
Yeah.
I hear the doctors have given you the all clear. You've been instructed to take it slow.
Yeah.
Well, yes.
I have a lot to tell you. I've only been standing for maybe a couple of minutes, and I think I already need to sit down. Can we find a place to sit?
Yes, yeah. He's just gonna take him to the nearest office that he can clear out.
Okay.
What
I imagine you stepping into a room where a couple of cadets are basically running through some of their experiments, and you say, clear the room, and they go, aye, sir. And the two cadets get up, grab a couple of their data pads, and immediately step out of the room.
Leave the tea. All right, so what happened? There was no transport. There was a program. You were shot by the program, but safety protocols were still on. Help me make sense of this.
I'm gonna be honest with you, Captain. I don't have much sense to shine on this, but I'll tell you what I experienced and what I think happened. I was attempting to figure out the connection between the Jem'Hadar and the vision Tavine and I saw, and whatever is going on with the antichronoton particles and these phantom ships and kernels and the like. The Jem'Hadar I questioned in the holodeck. Nothing really came up about that, so I figured maybe if I tried to search in a database for the specific Jem'Hadar I saw, it was in the closest to a dream. They can have that's not a dream, so I tried meditating to remember, to recall it, and all of a sudden I wasn't meditating, I was there. And I'm not back in my dream, but in the middle of a battle. There were Federation officers dead around me, some Jem'Hadar as well. And it wasn't me, but the eyes I was watching all of this happen through, they had been shot in the chest. I was watching an interaction between a Romulan woman, and a Jem'Hadar, I believe the one I saw in my vision. And I didn't catch everything. I think more than just watching through this person's eyes, I was fitting in and out just as this person probably was, or is, or will be. I'm not sure, but they were speaking about time, the Romulan and Jem'Hadar. What I picked up, I can only assume, is that they plan on weaponizing some form of time manipulation, time travel. I don't know for sure, but I think they noticed me. Either they noticed me or they noticed the body I was in, and the Jem'Hadar shot me, us in the face. I think I was thrown back before maybe that part made contact, because it seems like I don't need a new face at the very least.
You know the first thing I noticed about you, Lieutenant, if I may?
Please, can't say I'm not curious that you brought it up.
You have incredibly potent pa. He's going to take his earring off. Could you hold this for a moment?
Of course, Captain. I'll take the earring.
Now I want you to recall everything again to the best of your ability.
Okay, so mentally or out loud or both?
Whatever calls to you.
Okay, Captain. And I will just go through it again out loud. I think I'll just speak it out loud, what I went through, what I think, and what I experienced.
You get a few syllables out before your throat is seized by a Jem'Hadar's hand, and you were being raised up off of the bed that you were sitting upon.
Do I see this?
Yeah. You see Aeon suddenly just suddenly gasp, and his head goes back, and he starts arcing his back. You see him getting pulled up off the bed by like some unseen force, and you hear almost echoing throughout from some distant room that is far away as the Jem'Hadar's lips move. The Jem'Hadar says, "How is this possible?"
I'm just gonna pull my phaser out, point it at him, and say,
"You see
The
only
prophet
to Aeon, just so you know."
"Oh,
you do not
so I don't
see
hear
anyone.
any of this."
You know, it's almost as if an unseen force has grabbed to Aeon by the throat.
Got it.
I'm gonna try and grab the hand. Do I make contact with anything?
You see a human hand, delicate fingers, not yours, grab the arm of this Jem'Hadar.
I would like to use
Struggling
rally.
against it.
What's happening?
I would like to use my rally ability.
Okay, what are you trying to do?
I am trying to talk Taeon through this, which is breathe, calm. You have strong pa. You are as much a threat to them as they are to you, but you have to focus. I don't know anything about Vulcan spirituality, so I'm trying to guide him with Bajoran spirituality. If they are a creature that deals with time, know that you have the protection of those outside of it. Focus.
At this point, medical staff has started to swarm around all of you, and are moments away of trying to intervene. So, to Aeon, you hear that voice in the back of your head. What would you like to do?
Looking down at this body I'm currently in, this human body,
Mm-hmm.
can I see anything on me? What am I working with?
You look like you are in a battle, but it's nothing like the cave that you were in before. Instead, you see the battlefield around you, and you can hear fire, weapons fire, and fighting, but that's all you see. It's very fuzzy all about you. The Jem'Hadar that's strangling you looks familiar, but also looks confused.
Does this body have a weapon on it?
Yes, it looks like you were holding a Klingon diktach in your left hand.
Okay. While struggling against his head, I'm going to try and bury it into the armpits of the raised hand.
Can I roll the rally real quick just in case?
Oh yeah.
Yep. This is
that'll give you bonus.
This is for all. This is it. Go ahead and make your roll.
Right,
Yes, for the totality of the marbles.
Alrighty. This is going to give us not the greatest. 2 momentum.
Okay.
got 2 momentum to pull from.
Hey, it's the best number of warp cores. You got this.
Roll to stab Jim Hadar.
Do I know that? I don't know if I haven't. I feel like we haven't done combat in a while. Do I know what the difficulty is or no before rolling?
For physical combat, I believe it's always 1.
Difficulty 1 contested roll.
Yeah, and then it's not. He's not contested in this one. The Jim Hadar has no idea. He's going to get basically a free attack on him.
Okay, I'm not going to use a momentum for my self-reliant.
Okay.
That's a 1 and a 2.
A 1 and a 2.
Yeah, so I got a crit, and the other one I think is just a normal success because I don't have a focus.
I mean, you do specialize in hand-to-hand combat as the tactical officer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
I was like, yeah, this for sure you have a focus.
I don't know. Like hand-to-hand was specifically like unarmed or weapons.
So this is blade. It has the deadly quality, and it does 3 damage.
Okay.
I
get.
It doesn't matter. He's a minor. This is a minor character. So there's no. So you summon your strength, and as you're grabbing the hand, you just using that Vulcan might. You slam the Diktok into the chest of the Jim Hadar. The Jim Hadar stumbles back suddenly and looks down at himself and says, "This is not what happened." And he falls back into the misty, warped, fuzzy field that surrounds you. As he does, he vanishes before he hits the ground. The Diktok that was in his chest clatters without any blood upon it into the soil, and you snap back.
There you are.
Humans.
Meanwhile, back on board the IKS Drovna, Prism suddenly says, "I'm detecting an alteration to the timeline."
Where? When? What?
Starbase 16. Medical Bay. And that is where we are going to leave tonight's game session of the Last Excelsior.
Well, perhaps someday we'll have an eventful session. I'm so sorry we didn't manage to get anything done, y'all.
That'll wrap us out for tonight, everybody. Thank you so much for coming along on this journey. We will be back next Monday night for the next session. Until then, everyone, hailing frequencies are closed.